Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise this meeting is being streamed live to the internet. All those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements, and upon joining these online meetings, you accept the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded meetings. I now open the 14 December 2023 Ordinary Council meeting, the time being 5:30 p.m. Can I ask Councillor Black to do the prayer, please? Business papers, first page.
O God, grant that by the knowledge of thy will, all we may resolve shall work together for God, for good, we pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Burns, can you do the acknowledgement of country, please? Welcome to country, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging of the Wiradjuri nation and extend that respect to other people from other nations who are present. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Next item on the agenda is leave of absence. We've got all councillors present, and just notation for anyone watching, our CEO tonight is Natasha Kumar, and she's joining online, so satisfying the requirements of the Local Government Act, but still joining online there. The next item on the agenda is conflicts of interest, CCL 23/326. Councillors, I think Councillor Goff.
Yep. Thank you. Item CCL 23/340 in relation to the New South Wales Touch State Carnival, as my business will be trading there for the 3 days, and I will leave the room.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any other conflict of interest to be declared at the beginning of the meeting, councillors? No. I'll move on to the next item, is public forum, CCL 23/327. I've got one speaker registered for public forum at the moment. Before I start that, though, I'll just go through and explain the rules around public forum. So the rules are that each speaker has 5 minutes. Once the one registered speaker has finished, we've got 30 minutes allocated to public forum. So then we'll invite any other members of the public to come forward, and they'll be obviously taken in order of them putting their hand up to come forward. When you do come forward, please just state your name and a very brief summary of the subject, and then you've got your 5 minutes. At 4 minutes 30, I will ding a glass as, just so you know you've got 30 seconds left, and then at 5 minutes I'll do that several times, and that'll be the end of the time for speaking in public forum. Okay, so the first speaker I have is Mr. John Gray. If you can come forward, please, Mr. Gray, and to the microphone, and again, obviously state your name and the brief topic, and away you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a handout for councillors, if we're able to distribute this amongst.
Yep, one of our council staff will just grab that and circulate it around. Thank you.
Thank you. As that's going around, thank you, Mr. Mayor, councillors, CEO and executive staff. My name's John Gray. I'm the General Manager of Mars Group Holdings Residential Real Estate. We've just distributed to councillors a brief presentation on a number of issues we wish to raise prior to the adoption of the draft DCP for our residential land development project at 168 Bungalgumbi Road, Dubbo. Slide number 2. So consultation with council formally commenced with pre-lodgement meetings in December 2022. The draft DCP was submitted to council in January 2023. During council assessment, requests for further information transacted in April. However, it was not until September when council notified us of changes they were making to the DCP prior to exhibition. During the 12-month period taken to assess the DCP, we've provided several submissions to the strategic planning exercises occurring on the land surrounding our site, known as the Northwest Precinct, noting our site is formally excluded from the Northwest Precinct. We are concerned our plan of subdivision lodged in January is designed to comply with the required standards of the Dubbo DCP of 2013 and existing policies, and has been purposefully delayed. The DCP for Stage 1 of the Northwest Precinct was progressed ahead of the assessment of our application, and once adopted by council, a number of changes are now being enforced upon our site. September 2023, 9 months into the assessment of our DCP, was the first time we were told of the additional changes being imposed by council. Our concern has now escalated that the beneficial community outcomes intended in the DCP are unable to be met as a result of the council changes. Slide number 3. Our primary concerns, disappointment and frustration throughout the process have been with the lack of meaningful consultation and procedural fairness from council about the strategic planning process across the Northwest Precinct and how this would influence the development outcomes on our DCP and our development application, of which Council has been aware of since December 2022. Slide number 4. Whilst our site is excluded from the Northwest Precinct, we clearly remain an affected stakeholder. Despite our several submissions on the exhibited materials in relation to the Northwest Precinct, they were never formally acknowledged or responded to by Council. After 9 months of assessment of our DCP, we were told changes would need to be made and that Council would be adopting a DCP for the Northwest Precinct that has a different design concept to our development site. Slide number 5. The most notable change that has occurred is road widening of both local and collector roads. What we lodged in January complied with the design criteria and standards required. The adoption of Stage 1 Northwest Precinct DCP in October appears to now make our design inconsistent and non-compliant. The main concern we have is the reason for these changes is not well documented, as the road widths appear to change at some point between coming off public exhibition and Council adopting the DCP. The corresponding report that documents responses to submissions received does not raise road widening as a topic with community backing. It is understood the need for wider road corridors is to address urban heat island effects. However, the increased pavement width adopted by Council contributes to further heat sink in paved surface areas rather than addressing the perceived issue. By addressing this issue through the proposed control changes, the outcome results in loss of additional affordable housing yield, increased development costs, further increasing cost of new housing, and increasing Council's maintenance cost liability with unnecessary, oversized and over-embellished road infrastructure. Slide number 6. This is an example of the road design we lodged in January 23 that was compliant and as of October 23 made now non-compliant by the Council changes. Slide number 7. Additional change imposed by Council is the proposed realignment and restriction on traffic calming treatments as seen in Figure 2 of the draft DCP. Through these restrictive controls, the only design response remaining is the development of battle axe style allotments. It is noted that Council introduced additional controls around the provision of battle axe style development, including wording that it should be avoided where possible. The introduction of enforced development staging, as you can see in slide number 8, the area marked as Stage 1 in the draft DCP encloses approximately 30 allotments and doesn't reflect Council's prescriptive 60 lot limitation described. The 60 lot limitation was confirmed to be based on a non-technical assessment of traffic movements with a Council engineering verbal response. It is more a gut feel. Reports we submitted raise no traffic volume concerns that warrant enforced stage development. Unnecessary limitations like this limit the delivery of affordable housing supply and the ability to meet community and market demands, and limit Council's delivery targets as per local strategic planning statements. Slide number 9. We urge Council to provide further consideration to the changes being imposed to the site-specific DCP at 168A Bungle Gumby Road. Several
Thank you.
beneficial
Thank you,
outcomes
Thank
intended...
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Thank you. That's your 5 minutes up. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, as per our code of meeting practice, we have more time left in public forum. So if there's anyone else in the public gallery that would like to come forward and speak at public forum, then they have the ability to do so now. Thank you. I think you vaguely know the procedure, so I'll let you start with your name and go forward from there. Thank you.
I think I vaguely do, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Barbara Sutherland. I'm, as well as a community member, I'm an administrator of SOS Trees. I'm on the Street Tree Committee and a passionate advocate for a more livable LGA. I'd like to start this with thanking everybody who's committed, all our councillors who are committed to ensuring that our urban forest is measured, managed and has policy with budget to ensure we have a livable community for our current and future generations. Tonight, there'll be a notice of motion put forward by Councillor Josh Black, Deputy Mayor Richard Ivey and Councillor Jess Goff. We welcome this motion. There are 2 points to the motion. The first one being that a report, and I won't go through all that because it'll go through the council meeting, but firstly that a report will come back to council on a tree preservation order for trees on private land. The important part to remember about this is that 50% of the land in our, approximately of the land in our LGA is private land and 50% is public land. Second point of this motion is a really important one, and that relates to the education of all of us. That's councillors, the community, everybody needs education on the value, the importance of retaining our trees, increasing our canopy, and the benefits they provide to our urban communities. Thank you, councillors, for this motion, CCL 232387, a positive step forward for the benefit of our entire community. The last couple of meetings have shown some real concerns about in relation to a TPO. And the first one was that a motion that our precious tree planting budget be used, how much of this tree planting budget to be used for a further survey when we've already had extensive community survey. In 2017, over 6 years ago, Council identified we needed a budget of $682,000 to achieve a very modest tree canopy cover of 20% by 2057. The budget has since been reduced to $100,000 per year with an increase this year following Councillor Josh Black's motion. How can a further survey be justified under these circumstances? At the last meeting, a councillor asked how many councils were increasing tree canopy without TPOs and policies. The answer would be the same councils that believe in Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. It takes years with strong policies and budget to increase tree canopy by a few percent every couple of years. It takes many decades to reach a realistic target. Dubbo does not need to reinvent the wheel. There are so many resources and so much expertise out there. We just need to look at the science. It is heartening to see Dubbo and Maitland are participating in the Smart and Cool Places program. We watch with interest what the outcome of this will be because it will relate to not only the green infrastructure, but it will be in relation to our grey infrastructure and improving our grey infrastructure as well. So the community watches with interest, and I think this is a really important night tonight for our urban forest and managing our urban forest. And finally, I'd just like to conclude by wishing you and your families the warmest season's greetings, and we look forward to the interest of the whole community being upheld to make this LGA resilient into the future.
Thank you, Ms Sutherland. So again, as per our meeting procedure, we have time left in our public forum time. So if there's anyone else that would like to come forward from the gallery to speak, then now is the time that you should do that. No further speakers. I'll move on to the next item. CCL 23/328, confirmation of minutes. Can someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Showery, seconded by Councillor Ivey. Any debate, discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/329, mayoral appointments and meetings. If I'll move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Seconded by Councillor Wells. And Councillor Ivey, you wanted to make one change in that. There was one incorrect notice or mention in that one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just am listed there as attending the Dubbo Day Awards. I would have loved to have attended the awards, but unfortunately I couldn't. So I think somehow my name snuck in there and it shouldn't have. But so maybe that just needs to be corrected.
Indeed it does, and we'll make sure that happens. Thank you for mentioning that. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/330, building summary. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Only that a couple of those particular tables, the way they're presented, are slightly different to previous months, and presented in a much easier format to read, actually. So, well done to the staff on that. That's probably the only comment I want to make on that with regards to some of those particular tables. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Just a comment, perhaps which might involve staff again responding to that, but it's interesting to note within the figures at page 32 of our papers, over the last 2, 3, 4 years, the increasing trend towards other residential other than single dwellings. There's the ratio there of single dwellings to other dwellings, which include multi-premise dwellings, is quite I would have thought, a very significant trend, and maybe that just has some implications for future planning subdivisions of land within our LGA.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any further questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Wright, do you wish to exercise your right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Have that before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/331, Service Review Program. An update on that. Can someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright. Seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Only that it's great to see just that ongoing commitment towards some levels of efficiency, just trying to find some ways of saving this council some money going forward. And there's obviously a number of items across a number of different facets of the business itself that the council staff and this council are looking at. So that'll be ongoing through 2024. So we'll see a little bit more happening in that space over the coming 12 months, I'd imagine. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/332, the quarterly report on complaint stats under Council's Code of Conduct. So I'll move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Chowdhury, you should speak to that.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Only just to make the obvious comment, Mr. Mayor, that in the last quarter there have been no complaints lodged, which I think that's I think that's good.
I agree, Councillor Ivey, that is good. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? No, being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/333, investment under section 625 of the LGA. Someone move that, please. Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion or debate, councillors? No, being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/334, monthly reporting snapshot for councillors. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Black. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Goff. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question with regards to the report on page 68, which is the Aquatic Leisure Centre's total visitors per month. I notice the report actually shows quite a significant decrease in November when compared to past years, from 15,000, 10,000, 17,000 back to just under 4,000. Might be able to just maybe get a bit of clarity on that particular part of the report as to why that trend is down or whether that figure is actually correct, if we can do that. Thanks.
Certainly happy to do that. I'll take that question through to Mr. Arms.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Your assumptions are correct that the number in the report is incorrect. The correct number is 9,792, which is quite a number below last year, but getting towards the year before. But it does jump around a little bit in November. There was a glitch reported from the managers at the pool, but they've rectified that now. So we hope that that the numbers remain accurate going forward. We'll keep a close eye on that.
Thank you, Mr. Arms. That covers that question.
Thanks,
Councillor
Mr.
Wright.
Mayor. Just another teething error, I believe. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just an observation concerning the visitor numbers to the Wellington Caves and Caravan Park. The admissions to the Wellington Caves, whereas have recovered post-COVID, but are still really substantially, well, significantly less than what they were in 2019-20. And I know we've got a service review underway in relation to the Wellington Caves, but I think that really does highlight that there is a need to look at the Wellington Caves complex and just to see how the visitor numbers might be increased there, because it is a terrific complex. It's a very entertaining, very informative, very educational, and I think that really the numbers should be greater than they are. So I think we, as part of that service review, I really do look forward to having a workshop in relation to that and just seeing what can be done to increase those visitor numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Further questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Black, you have a right of reply if you wish.
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Have that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is the report of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, CCL 23/335. Councillor Ivey, if you move that, please. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to that?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor, to say that it was the first committee meeting under the new membership. The independent chairman, Mr. John Walcombe, had been reappointed, applied and was successful and was reappointed. Another independent committee member, Tom Breen, was re-elected and reappointed, and we have a new member, independent member appointed, Greg Matthews, and so I think that it does. It's a good committee. It's well structured, and I think really it'll be quite effective in its carrying out its duties. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/336, notice of motion to alter CCL 23/287. Councillor Black, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Goff. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this, the amendment to alter, or the notice of motion to alter, just removes point 3. It leaves point 1 and 2 from the tree preservation order motion from a couple of months back, still there, but it removes point 3. So I'll just read onto the record, and for those following at home, what we've got. So point 1 was that council prepare a report to come back to council outlining a proposed framework for tree management guidelines for trees on private land to an intervention level of 8 metres or higher, and also 10 metres or higher, threshold including, well, a whole heap of things there. 2, that council develops an education program highlighting the importance of retaining trees, increasing canopy coverage, and the benefits that they provide to our urban communities. And the third point was, and this is the one that proposed to remove, is that council undertake a statistically valid survey to understand community attitude towards a tree preservation order, and that it be funded from the tree management budget. Point 3 being, I think it was the Mayor's amendment, was it? Can't remember, it was a couple of months ago. So my point here is that some quotes have come back at a cost to do that statistically valid survey of between $30,000 to $50,000, and for it to be funded from the tree management budget, which is not great as it stands at the moment. I really think that this is not about a tree preservation order. It's about, do we need to do a survey at the moment before we even get a report come back to us? And the cost of that survey, to my mind, is fiscally irresponsible. We don't need to be spending that money right now, I don't feel. It's not the best use of ratepayers' funds, and it probably won't give us a whole heap of really important information that would help us make a decision into the future anyway, because people would be, 8 metres or 10 metres, what do you want? Like, the report is going to come back to us from the experts in the field, the council staff, and then we can make a decision. And we've heard about a whole stack of other ways that we can survey the community again. It's important to also realise that the surveying of the community, usually we get a number between 0 and 1 submissions from the public when we go out to public submissions often. This previously for the tree preservation order, there was 13,000 letterbox deliveries across areas of Dubbo and Wellington. There was an info night in Dubbo and info night in Wellington. There was other advertising out there, pushed it out on the socials and that. There was 104 people filled out the survey and made submissions. So that's sort of off the scale compared to what we normally get. And I really don't feel that we should be spending up to $50,000 to get another statistically valid so-called survey when people have had a bit of a go, but wait till we finalise what our position might be. It might be that we don't want to even go with a tree preservation order and we've blown 50 grand up against the wall. So I'd like people to support removing point 3, and we'll just see where we get to in the future with an actual tree preservation order or not. Then we can survey people. Thank you.
And councillor, just before I ask for discussion or debate, I'll just mention something from a technicality, because we haven't had a notice of motion to alter previously, certainly in my memory, on this council. So it's a little bit different to a rescission motion in that the 3 points that Councillor Black mentioned there stand as they do from the October meeting. So they're there now. If you want to alter it as per Councillor Black's resolution to remove point 3, then you'd vote in favour of it, obviously. If you vote against it, we don't need another motion to replace it, because if you vote against it, it just stays the same, the October resolution, which is points 1, 2 and 3. So again, normally with a rescission motion, if you defeated it, you'd want something else to replace it. This one you don't need a replacement if you vote against it. So again, just a technicality there, so you understand that. So open up for discussion and debate, councillors. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm a bit torn on this one for a couple of reasons, and in this council and probably previous councils have been criticised a number of times by community for lack of community consultation, and by removing point 3 from this means that we are going to remove a layer of community consultation, and I feel that we can be criticised for doing that because the community have constantly said we don't listen to them and we don't consult with them enough to hear their thoughts and needs. But on the flip side, to remove this from this particular motion, yes, I understand Councillor Black's comment there with respect to the cost of that, especially if that money was going to come out of the tree budget. Mr. Mayor, can I get a bit of clarity maybe through you to the Director with respect to the process from here? My understanding is if we decide to remove this now, a draft strategy would be prepared and then sent back out for community consultation anyway for them to view before it was adopted or brought back to council for adoption. Is that the process?
Certainly, from my understanding, those two would still go back out through your say, but I'll go to Mr. Arms to give more details on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, so really going forward from here, we would look to build more detail into the proposal based on the 2 general intervention levels identified in the resolution. So up until now, we've really been talking about the concept, if you like, the vibe of the thing, if I can, just to get a feeling for how the community feels and gather as much data and information as we can to help us build a mechanism which would be supporting the community, but also act as an effective tree preservation order. So we will build the mechanisms by which the tree preservation order can operate, and that's really going into the detail. Like I say, how does it work? How does the mechanisms work in terms of non-compliance and compliance, et cetera, and then bring that back to council with a costed resourcing as well, because at both levels the resources to implement the order would be different. So we would give you all the information that you need to see how operationally the TPO would work at both intervention levels. At that point then, I would foresee that if you did endorse it, it would then go back to community consultation via your say and then go through that process, and then again back to the council with that data for your further consideration then.
Thank you, Mr Arms. Councillor Wright, further questions on that or further discussion?
No, thank you. I need to say then that, look, removal of this may remove this level of community consultation. However, community will have an opportunity to come to the party again down the track. I suppose whether they're against it or whether they're for it, this council wants to hear both sides of that argument. So before anything's implemented. So again, as I say in a lot of council meetings, we just encourage community to keep your eyes out for it and jump on and make the most of the opportunity to speak out. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I've got Councillor, I'm not sure which one put the hand up first, but I think I went Goff, Wells and Chowdhury. So Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm obviously supporting this alteration. Just to make it clear, I'm not comfortable with taking the money out of the tree planting budget we'd set aside to plant more trees, not to survey more people. And you will have another opportunity to have your say when we get the report back. And at the end of the day, everyone in the community has the ability to contact the council whenever they want. You can email us with your opinions, with your ideas, whenever you feel like it. So there is always community consultation, and we don't need to spend the extra money on an in-depth survey that some people will probably not even care about.
You, Councillor Goff, Councillor Wells and Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I too am torn on this particular change or alteration. And the reason is data is always really helpful and important in terms of evidence-basing our decision-making. And community consultation should always be at the utmost importance of what we do for important things. Now, I'm absolutely in favour of the tree preservation order and that what we do. I'm very much in favour of, the canopies improving across our LGA. I get it, and I understand spending $30,000 on a survey doesn't sound right, but I believe, and my question on this piece would be, isn't the survey a statistical survey, which means that they're going to be very targeted and call people and get those, and that this is a question that I would need some clarity on, because of that, then you're going to get more than 104 responses in as opposed to the other conversation. So I'm always in favour of community consultation, no matter how we do it. It's always going to cost, but that's what we're here for. We're the community. We're voicing things on behalf of the community, and we all know how hot it is. Look at the heat wave we've got now. So whilst I'm very much in favour of the improvement of the tree canopy, I'm still really interested in seeing a further survey occurring. But if you could answer the question, please, around the statistical, does that mean that it's a targeted approach, and are people going to be calling people? Can you give me some clarity around that, please?
Yeah, sure. And just very briefly, so the two types of surveys typically you have would be a self-selected survey and a valid that's statistically valid. Now, self-selected survey is not statistically valid because you are only focusing on that survey if you're interested in it, so you're not getting a true cross-section of the community. The way a statistically valid survey would occur would be through a random selection of people, and typically they would be making phone calls, Mr. Arms, to a random group of people, so that you would get the same with our community needs survey, where you don't need to get a huge number of people. It might only need to get, say, 600 people for our community needs survey out of 56,000, and that gives you a statistically valid survey. As self-selected survey, you could get 2,000 and it's still not valid because they're self-selected, and that's the major difference there. Mr. Arms, do you want to add anything to that from a stats point of view?
Only to say, Mr. Mayor, that really you get what you pay for in this space as well. The more detailed effort the service providers go into in terms of contacting the sample, the more rigorous the number that you get back, but that costs you more. And so that's where that $30,000 to $50,000 from the quotes that we've got now it's in that space where we feel that the best value for money is. There are cheaper options, but really we're really looking at is that value for money in that space. So again, that 30 to 50 the more that we're able to contact, the more rigorous that contact, the better the information that we can get.
And from me, Mr. Arms, when you said there's some other cheap ones, the cheapest quote we've received so far is 30, or there are cheap ones we've received?
There is a cheaper one. It's around the 20, but we need to look into it a little further. But the methodology that they're suggesting at that price isn't a whole lot different to the effort that we've put in to date. But again, we're still looking at the detail and really need to crunch those numbers. But our recommendation would be, if we do this, to really get the biggest bang for our buck.
So does that answer your questions, Councillor Wells?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in favor with Councillor Black motion to alter, because I think I'm not also comfortable to taking the money from tree plantation and putting to this community survey, because I think we need to put more money into tree plantation because it's this hot weather. We need to increase our canopy and other. But through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a question to the director. Once that TPO data is like you have all the data you have, what level of community consultation are you gonna do? Like if we remove now?
Thank you, Councillor Sherry. Mr. Arms, you're comfortable with that question? Understand what's being asked there?
Yeah, I think so. If we don't do the statistical survey, what level of community consultation will we implement going forward? So we will, from here, we would build the two options, the two intervention levels into the TPO, the Tree Preservation Order, with as much operational rigour as we can and that we know. And I think we can do that to a large extent, as well as resource what we feel we would need to operationalise that TPO as well. I think from that point, we can then come, and we can also use the Public Trees Committee as well as an advisory body, which is something I haven't mentioned till now, but we can certainly use them. But we will come back to council and give you an idea about what those two interventions look like. And then from there, we can implement our Your Say community engagement program, which you're familiar with and which we've been doing quite a lot over recent times, which the first element of this has already been through. So again, I would foresee public forums of people that are interested, as well as targeted ones like through the arborists, people that are directly affected by this, developers, etc. Well, not so much developers, because it's a post-development measure. So from there, we can bring that information back to council with a synthesised data exercise, so that we can tell you what the community are feeling based on the specifics of those two intervention levels, and give you an opportunity to have your second or third deliberations over it.
And I'll just clarify one thing on that. The resolution, whichever way it goes, whether it goes through or doesn't, says that council prepare a report to come back to council. So obviously staff would satisfy that part of the resolution. There's no mention at point 1 or point 2 of the current resolution, whether that stays the same or changes, of doing anything further with Your Say. So I'm assuming there that when you bring it back to council, then councillors would have to make a decision about putting that out for some form of public submission. But at the moment, that wouldn't happen before the report came back to council following the letter of the law on the actual resolution of council. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, so we would build the draft TPO and bring it back to you for your consideration. You would then, if you endorse that, we would then embark on a Your Say community engagement process. And then that would come back to you again for a second, third time for further consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Arms. Councillor Showery, if you want to continue on from that.
Yeah, all good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You've only asked a question at this stage, so you can enter the debate if you need to. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the motion. I understand the feeling that let's do a statistically valid survey, but I just question the worth of that. I think that having someone sitting home having their dinner who doesn't know anything about tree preservation orders, getting a phone call saying, what do you think about these different options, is likely to get some information that really doesn't help us, compared to putting out a draft of a tree preservation order inviting comments from interested parties, from informed parties, from people who both are for and against it, but have really thought about the issues and then are able to articulate their views back to us in a structured fashion, is likely to give us better information on which to make a decision than the results of, as I say, a statistically valid but random sample involving a lot of people that really don't know the issues and will say something off the top of their head without really thinking about it. I think this issue, it's a technical issue, it's an environmental issue, it's an issue which is extremely important. And I think we're better off to make decisions on informed information that are presented back to us than just seeing what people think in a random fashion.
So keep in mind at the moment, Councillor Ivey, that's not what the resolution says, but you could change, so given this is an alteration, which is a bit different, you still can amend it. So if someone wanted to say, well, forget the statistically valid survey, let's just do a survey, or let's add your say, whatever, you could do that now, or you could wait that till that report comes back to council and then go ahead with it. So you've got those options there. But at the moment, it doesn't say any of what you've just said there. It just says bring a report back to council. So none of what you just said then would happen with if the alteration goes through in its current form. Does that make sense?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, no, I didn't. As I understood it, when Mr. Arms outlined what the process would be, it involved formulating a tree preservation order that would then be put to have the public would have the opportunity to give us feedback on that.
Well, that would be a future decision of council, because at the moment, the staff will follow the resolution to the letter of the law. And at the moment, it talks about preparing a report to come back to council. It makes no mention of any further surveying. Part 3 does at the moment, but if Part 3 is removed, then there's no further mention. So when the report comes back to council, council would then have the option to say, put it out for public submission, for example. But at the moment, there's no mention of any further consultation based on the resolution before us. Now, what Mr. Arms said is probably what's going to happen, given the fact that we would probably say, put it out, but it's not written there at the moment.
Sorry, I am still confused because I thought that was the very question that was asked of him, what the procedure would be, and he outlined what the procedure would be.
Yeah, and so I assume that he was making an assumption that that would be what would happen, because it would come back for resolution by council, which presumably councillors would say go out on public submission to get more information about that. And correct me if I'm wrong there, Mr. Arms?
Yeah, I would certainly seek council's endorsement to go to the community with a detailed TPO based on those 2 intervention levels that are currently in the resolution, the 8 and 10. So this is what it looks like. Do you want to keep going, really? Do you want to keep going out to the community and ask the community what they feel a TPO looks like based on this level of detail? Gather the data, the metrics, and analyse that, synthesise it, and present it back to you again for a third consideration.
That makes sense, Councillor Ivey? So it will more than likely happen, but at the moment it's not written to happen as such, if that makes sense.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I understand that now, although, as I say, I must admit I didn't understand that that's what was said originally. But
So you've got the option if you want to alter that if you like. Councillor Chowdhury, so you can still enter the debate because you've only asked a question at this stage.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I want to add that option to go to community consultation, what I need to do?
So essentially, the amendment would be that at the moment the alteration is to remove point 3. You would amend that to say, so at the moment, if that goes through, that would be points 1 and 2, end of story. So you could amend the alteration from council back to say, and instead of a statistically valid survey, that we go out through your say or a council-led survey along those lines. And I'd probably look for the exact wording from one of our staff, but along those lines, so that there was still that consultation done, but not spending the money on a statistically valid survey.
Yeah, I would like to go, please.
Okay, so you want to move an amendment, Councillor Chowdhury?
Yes.
Right, okay. And along those words that I just
But
said.
that not cost any money, like the one we just proposed, like removing now.
Yeah, right. So give me a second and I'll just see if we want to get someone from our staff to give something along those lines and just see the exact wording of that. So what it would be then, Councillor Chowdhury, would be at the moment, obviously it's just remove point 3 from Councillor Black, And the amendment would be that you replace point 3 with another point 3, which would be the words that you're about to say. I'll just check with Ms Rouse about what that might look like.
Sorry, Councillor. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just changed my mind. Sorry. Yeah, I would like to wait until the report come and then we all take decision. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
Sorry for that. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So no amendment. Right, that's fine. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Councillor Ivey, for answering on Councillor Shouter's behalf. Please don't be influenced by your fellow councillors, Councillor Shoutery. Okay, so Councillor Shoutery, you're right. Any further questions or?
No, I'm good, thank
Right,
you.
So you can still enter the debate because you only asked a question at this stage. Further questions or debate, Councillor Mann?
Councillor Chowdhury just made it a bit easier for what I was trying to get to, but I think it's a very straightforward motion and it will achieve what we want. We don't want to spend the money right now, and I think we're still driving the bus when it does come back to us. If we think, I think it's going to be far more palatable if you've got a report that's actually got all the detail of what it's going to look like in the end. We can then go to the interested parties, the fors, against, all the rest of it, and you do that last final consultation. So I'll absolutely support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Further questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Shoutery, you can enter the debate still. You're going to move an amendment now.
No. I have a question through you, Mr. Mayor. So when we do, when the report will come and when we do that public consultation at the end, is that all other stakeholder, all sort of stakeholder, like a builder, everyone get involved on that consultation process, or only the community?
It would be whatever we ask the staff to do. So whether it be via your say process, it could be then you could ask for a specifically valid survey if you wanted to. So there's a whole range of options that you could go forward with. Again, the resolution at the moment says that Mr. Arms will bring back a report, and from that, then councillors can decide what we do with that report. We could adopt that report, we could make that policy, we could go out via a certain amount of a period, if you like, of submissions. We could do whatever we want with it from that point in time. And
Thank
Mr.
you.
Arms, anything I missed there?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just mention their education program. So that's part of the resolution as well. I think it's a really key component of this. We want to bring the community along with us on this journey. So it's certainly an integral part of the process going forward. How exactly we intertwine that into this is something we'll need to chew on a bit, but I'm confident we can do it. Thank you.
And certainly from my perspective, I didn't move that amendment at the last council meeting because I don't move amendments from the chair, but I certainly supported it because sometimes it is important to get that valid data back to be able to make decisions with. So I actually thought it was a good idea to go for a statistically valid survey to get that information. But again, the council decision will be the council decision. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Black, you have a right of reply to anything that was said in the debate.
Thank you. I'll try to remember all the stuff that was said there. Thanks to Councillor Ivey and Goff for signing the motion there before. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, look, basically, what do we have to put to, till it comes back to us and we decide if we want to go forward with a tree preservation order or not, we've really got nothing to put out there. Let's just wait and get the report, decide what we're going to do, because we could spend 50 grand and then say, oh no, we don't want to go forward with a TPO. We've wasted another 50,000. So fiscal responsibilities doesn't mean not spending any money. It means spending the money in the right ways. And I think that we need to be fiscally responsible here and just hold off on spending 50 grand on a survey. And we really can't sort of survey every decision. Otherwise, we'd be even more broke than we are now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. So I have the alteration before us. As I said, if you vote for it, that removes point 3. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay, next item, CCL 23/337, Double Regional Council nomination for the Western Regional Planning Panel. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/338, DA for road closure at Campania Road. Have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Shoutery, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Shoutery, do you wish to speak to that?
No, all good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against, declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/339, planning proposal, amendments to the Dubbo Regional Local Environmental Plan. Can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks.
Any further discussion or debate? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/340, 2024 New South Wales Touch Football Junior State Cup road closures. Can someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Goff, do you want to declare?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just declaring a pecuniary conflict of interest as I have a business trading over the 3-day period, and I'll leave the room.
Okay, Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, look, this is really about the traffic around the whole competition over the 3 days, and I just wanted to sort of give it another plug around it. It's great that Dubbo's got it for the next 3 years, and bringing that many young people to Dubbo for an elite sport is great, and the fact that we're doing really great work around, having the right roads access so that nobody gets hurt. It's great too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Can we have Councillor Goff return to the room, please? Someone. Thank you. Okay, thank you, councillors. Next item, CCL 23/341. Sorry, she's back. 341, Dubbo College South Campus, no stopping zone. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Chowdhury?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/342, Dubbo Public School proposed relocation of time restricted no parking zone. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Similar to that previous motion that we had there, I've had some public concerns. People had addressed me with respect to both of those issues. So just a good example, I think, of council taking on board some of that feedback and implementing just some minor changes to the way traffic flows in both those locations. So yeah, just a good example of council listening and acting. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/343, Public Art Strategy Adoption, moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, look, I'm the chair of the Spark Committee, and the Spark Committee obviously have a heavily vested interest in public art strategy, and that was received quite well when council put that to that particular committee. One thing I do note on there is point 2 that council consider future funding for key projects in forward budget development. So, whilst this particular document itself sets out that strategy, it doesn't actually set out a funding strategy for projects going forward. So that's obviously something we'll need to continue to work on as a council, but at least this puts the groundwork in place and gives something to move forward with. So yeah, well done for members of the community who helped shape that particular strategy. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/344, the Regional Sports Council Playing Field Improvement Fund. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Goff, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Chowdhury, then Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can see that on the report there is a rugby club and football club get money for this round 1. So through you, so I haven't seen any other sports club like a cricket and others. So is there any opportunity in future they can apply for this grant? Thank you.
Good question, Councillor Chowdhury. Absolutely. It's driven by application. So in this round, they were the only 3 clubs that actually made application. So if you've got some other sporting clubs out there, then absolutely keep in mind that the funding is 50-50. So they've got to have some of their own funds to put towards the council funds as well. So that might limit some organisations from putting an application, but absolutely encourage some of the sporting organisations you know of to put in an application.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd just like to use the opportunity of noting that the Wellington Cowboys Rugby League Football Club was the recipients of two of those three successful grants. And just acknowledging that, I'd like to give a shout out to them. Just what a fantastic job the Wellington Rugby League Club have done within the community. They really are an active part of the community. They've brought a lot of people along with them. They're very involved supporting the Junior Rugby League, and they have run a very successful, very professional sporting club in the last few years. And so I think, again, some acknowledgement that that's recognised and that council is willing to support them to continue to develop the service that they can provide to their players and to the community is well worth recognising. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate, councillors, on the Playing Field Improvement Fund? No. Councillor Goff, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise that.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors have that before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/345. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells. Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, look, this is, I think, a great opportunity. That I think it's great that council's been successful in the expression of interest for the Growing Round Regions program, and just wanted to say that it's really important that this pushes on because of the investment that it's had from not only the Indigenous community but the wider community since 2018. So it's an important project that we need to see kick off. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support this notice of this motion because I think this is very important and very cultural driven masterpiece for our region. And when I went to LG New South Wales conference, there was a particularly few councillors. They came and spoken about this project, and they really appreciate Babu is doing that sort of project. And I think if I will request other fellow councillors to support this motion, because if we don't support this motion, it will be like showing the lack of commitment to the community, because we keep saying last few years we're gonna do that, and if we're not doing now, or if we changing our mind, that will not give us a good reflect to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm a big supporter of the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre, and it will be great, but it's unfortunately my big concern is that it's been underfunded since the very beginning. There's been concerns years ago when the government gave money that there wasn't enough to actually cover all of the construction costs, and that's been borne out. We've seen here with a funding shortfall so far of $2.2 million, which will become $3.2 million after it's been funded by an internal loan. So I do believe that the Wiradjuri Tourism Centre needs to be built, but I'm just concerned about it's going to be immensely culturally significant, and I think that the whole thing should be funded by the state and federal government rather than by WA Regional Council ratepayers. And anyone you hear say, oh, look, if you're going to whinge about the funding and blah, 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 that means that you just want to cancel the whole thing, just be upfront and cancel it. That's just deliberately misleading when you hear that. So if anyone says that what I'm proposing some of my concerns is that I want to can the whole thing and paint me as some sort of racist, that's just completely deliberately misleading, and it needs to be called out and recognised for absolutely what it is. So even if we didn't proceed and we went for the 90-10 funding in the future at $15 million, council would still have to put up $1.5 million. So we're kind of painted ourselves into a corner a bit here. We've got 2.2 or 1.5. There's not a great deal of difference. And we might not even get the 90-10 into the future. But one of the things that I am concerned about, though, is the construction costs, because this hasn't been tendered one recently, and we know that construction costs have gone through the roof. One what are we going to do if, when it does go to tender, assuming we get the grant, which we haven't got yet, but let's assume that we do, if it comes back at like 18, 19, 20 million dollars to build the Wiradjuri Centre then, what are we going to do? So that's something to ponder into the future, and I hope that the quantity surveying from 12 months ago is still going to be correct when we get to it. Another concern of mine is the $400,000 a year to run the centre once it gets up and going, and that was conservative, I've been told, probably cost a lot more than that. I really think that it needs to be led by the community and run by the community, and we don't have the money at council to be putting $400,000+ a year into staff members to run it. So I'd really like to see, when this does come back to us, of a strategy to offset some of that $400,000 a year, that the community really steps up and takes it by the reins and staffs it and makes it great like it can be. But I'd just like to put on the record that I do have a few concerns about that it will cost more than the $2.2 million plus another $1 million worth of interest to get this thing built. But we would be no sure thing to get another 90-10 into the future. And even if we did at $15 million, we'd still have to put up the 10%, which is $1.5 million. So we might be better off going with what we've got and just bite the bullet, even though we're going to have to make some cuts somewhere else. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Black. Councillor Ivey.
Mr Mayor, through you, can I just ask a question following on from what Councillor Black says? We apply for the money, the grant, we're successful, we then put it out for tender, and we find that Councillor Black is correct. You know, it's not 15, it's $20 million. At that stage, have we invested much extra money? And at that stage, if we decide that we can't afford that, can we just tell the Commonwealth, thanks very much, we don't want to proceed?
Yeah, ultimately, it's our decision to go ahead with it. If we've got the grant approved, they're not going to make us take the money. Obviously, we could still say, no, we're not going to take the money, we won't go ahead at that particular point in time. I think what would happen, though, in that scenario would more likely be that we'd find a tender comes in for, let's say it was $20 million, we would then go out to either re-tender or we'd go and negotiate with the lowest tenderer and say, this is our budget of 15, you need to make sure that we can get it down to 15. How do we do that? And both those things are not unprecedented when we've received tenders through council before. But even if, let's say, for example, next year, maybe it will be March when the federal government makes a decision, March, the federal government says, yes, you've been successful, we've got the $15 million with our 2.2 and the state government money and the federal government money, everything lines up, and we change our minds then, we can still say no. I don't think that would be good from our reputational perspective, but we could still say no. They're not going to force us to take the money. We could still say no, and then they'd find another project to use. That answers all your questions?
One of the questions. The other question, at that stage, have we expended much? Have we got many sunk costs? Between now and then, have we invested much money?
I'll go to Mr Angus to answer that question, to see what sort of costs we would incur between, say, now and March before the decision is made. Mr Angus? Jamie?
Certainly, there's a certain amount of staff time, obviously, but as far as cash investment, it would be the costs through the DA process that we're working with at the moment. So that's and some project management, etc. Ian Whipple is online. He might be able to message me and tell me the exact figures. But yeah, we're basically talking about the DA costs.
Thanks, Jamie. And sorry, Mr Angus, and I assume you don't want to hazard a guess at those costs because you just haven't got enough information to even hazard a guess there.
I can certainly take the question on notice and get that out to the councillors.
Thank you, Mr Angus. So I'm not sure if that helps, Councillor Ivey. It gives you not huge costs, but there will still be some costs associated with between now and March, for example. Yeah. Further questions? Councillor Chowdhury, you can only ask a question at this stage.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, can we staff, council staff can clarify the project timeline, the completion time, and also like how relevant those like a project cost we put into this report?
I'm sorry, the first one is the project timeline. The second question, though?
Like how relevant the project cost, like as a Councillor Black said, everything gone like a construction cost gone to 30 to 40%.
So to say, going to Mr Angus again, December 2025, the project would have to be completed, and that's from the funding processes that we're applying for. So to be able to satisfy those deeds that we would sign, it would have to be December 2025. In relation to the other costs that you mentioned there, the QS was done within the last 12 months to give us that figure of $15 million. Included in that was an allowance for a 6% increase. From 2019 to 2023, there's been a 30% increase in building costs, and that's been a fairly large spike. There is some discussion that that's starting to settle down now, but still with that, what Mr Angus has done is build in a 6% increase, and in addition to that, a 15% contingency in those costs as well. So there's a little bit of headroom in that as it stands at the moment. So we would hopefully have it come in under $15 million, but there's a little bit of allowance there for that to happen as well. If that answers both questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. So further questions after Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, another one of these ones I'm a bit torn on as well. There's obviously a number of risks as to whether we do proceed or whether we don't, I guess. And Councillor Black's just outlined a couple of those as well. Certainly cost blowout is one of those. And I probably provided with a little bit of level of comfort off the back of Councillor Ivey's question there that, this isn't necessarily a stop-go point to a point. I suppose it is, but we potentially have another stop-go point in a couple of months' time, especially when this does go out to tender. My understanding is if a DA is approved, we've potentially spent some money on a DA. I'd imagine that DA would be good for a number of years anyway. And if an amended DA had to be prepared off the back of reduced scope for the project, then I guess that's something that could be done. Ongoing operations costs, that's obviously a concern as well. And I know if this council decides to proceed with this, there'll be elements of the community that will call council out on spending a whole lot of money when potentially we don't have it. If we don't proceed with it, there's going to be another section of the community going to be really, really disappointed. And that's that part of the community that I'd call out and suggest that that council does need a partner with regards to those ongoing operations and they're the facets of the community that are heavily invested in this themselves that we'd love to partner with. So, and we'll have a couple of years to be able to convene that, have those discussions and arrange for some sort of other local community group, whoever that might be, to partner with us, because that we do have that period of time. But that's my next concern. We're talking about December 2025. It's not that far away. We're a couple of weeks away from 2024. I think by the time we dig a shovel into the ground, it could be middle of next year. That leaves 18 months and some pretty tight timelines to try and build this before this money runs out. My other concern is if we don't run with this, we've got around $15 million in funding, and I suppose we're footing the bill for a couple of $1 million for a $15 million facility. I totally am with Councillor Black on the basis that I'd love this to be fully funded by a state or federal government and not a local government to provide this piece of infrastructure, which somebody described me the only other one that they can think of similar to this would be one up in Kakadu somewhere. So, we're talking about a pretty amazing tourism destination for the city and for the state itself. So I'd love for state to be involved in funding it. Having said that, our chances of getting that down the track are obviously unknown. So those buffers give me a little bit of comfort that we talked about in the quote. But nevertheless, I think the fact that I'm probably happy to support this as another go point and support the motion as it is, on the basis that I think we do have the opportunity for another stop-go point in a couple of months' time when we start seeing some figures coming back off a tender.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Further, Councillor Mann.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just, I think everything that's been said so far is absolutely relevant, but I've want to throw in an old saying, build it and they will come. I've got every confidence that sort of a state significant facility will attract the numbers that are needed. If we procrastinate, this has been 2018, this kicked off, the initial concept, the initial request for funding. It's now 2023. People have been expecting it for so long. I think we've just got to bite the bullet, go ahead and do it, and everything else will fall in its way, in its place eventually. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Mann. Other discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Wells, you have a right of reply to anything that was said during the debate.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we have that before us now. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/346, review of council's complaints policy document. Councillor Mann.
I'd like to move an alternative motion, Mr Mayor, for item CCL 23/346.
You can read that out, please.
Yep. So change the recommendation, number one, that the updated complaints management policy be adopted. And number two, that the internal ombudsman policy and the unreasonable complainant conduct policy be replaced with the updated complaints management policy.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Get a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Mann?
It's basically just tidying up two policies into and taking the best points out of all of them into one.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/347, Local Government Remuneration Tribunal Annual Review. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Wright, wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, you know, we regularly talk about conflicts of interest in this particular game, and there is nothing more conflicting than a group of councillors deciding whether to give themselves a pay rise. And I know the community have their ideas on it as well, and I think a number of the councillors here do too. So to be able to take this out of our hands and put it back in the place of government to make that decision, not us, that removes that conflict that it is and that it outright is. And I'd hope that they would adopt the recommendation that Dubbo Regional Council is going to put back to them. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. Further discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/348, 2024 CEO performance targets. Have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, just briefly, Mr. Mayor, I think this is a good piece of report for the community. Also can see like what this councillor put a target for the CEO and how we can achieve that one. I think I will encourage community to have a look and go through this target. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Keeping just as a reminder of the community that the councils employ one person on council, and that's the CEO. So this is a very important document, as you say. Other discussion or debate, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/349, questions on notice. Councillor Josh Black. Councillor Black, so moved. Someone second that, please. And this is for notation, obviously, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Thank you. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
Oh, yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to, for all those watching at home, I put in some questions to do with the 3D printed toilet in West Dubbo and to do with the layout of the toilet, not really the 3D printing as such. As I said previously in my very popular comment section, was that it's been described to me as it's the old style toilet where you have a common entrance that you walk in and with common space inside, whereas lots of the toilets that are built around the Dubbo and Wellington area in the last 10 years or so are single individual cubicles accessible from the outside, public space, rather than shared common facilities, different male and female. And there is, some of the reading that I've done is basically councils have a toilet policy, a toilet construction policy, and that might be something that we really need to look at in Dubbo and Wellington, is to guide the design and layout of public toilet blocks, amenity blocks into the future. So, speaking to some people down at the local government conference, a couple of the toilet suppliers there, public amenities, they couldn't believe that we had done an old style one, and it never really occurred to me until the person described the problem they had when I couldn't just let my 8-year-old kid go in, because I had a 12-year-old as well, a different boy and a girl, whereas if it had been separate individual single cubicles, they could have had them both toilet at the same time, wouldn't have been an issue. And I do note that I asked a question about whether it was possible to 3D print the amenities block with separate individual cubicles with doors that open directly to the outside, and it was, but it would have cost more money, would have exceeded the project budget. So I'm thinking if we had a toilet policy, design policy, then that probably would have come back to us and said, hey, we can't have the best practice design because it would exceed budget and we could look at doing something else. there are an awful lot of toilets over there. I'm not sure if a bus might pull up over at Lions Park, West Dubbo, and everyone needs to go at once, or what the story is. But another question that I put in was about the Victoria Park amenities block that is funded to be replaced in the near future. And I'm thinking, I don't want to see the same mistake made again where we build one of these old style toilet blocks. So hopefully this starts a bit of a conversation on within council on what we can do to get the best practice design into the future. And I feel after doing some research and talking to people that is not these old style shared space ones, but they're the single individual cubicles accessible from the public space on the outside. And that's what I've seen in other places. And also to note is the cost of building anything in Dubbo seems exorbitant when I've seen some other toilet blocks recently that were $150,000 and $180,000. It seems like there's a Dubbo tax whenever council wants to build anything. So I really hope that we could seem to get the same value for money that some of these other councils get. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Just remembering that questions on notice, again, this is the first time I think we've had it on this council. It's not about debating the answers. The answers are taken as fact. So you can have a discussion, but it's not about debating the actual answers as such. Councillor Ivey.
I'd again endorse some of Councillor Black's comments, particularly about the need for a toilet policy, if you like. I mean, let's work out what is needed and what is acceptable and what is the design that's preferable. I just take some issue with what he said about, of course, we'd be much better off if we had the single cubicle opening to the outside, state-of-the-art type design. Councillor Black, we've got that in Wellington, and they're a complete and utter disaster. In our main park in Cameron Park, where buses do pull up, tourist buses do pull up to use them, we've got, because of cost, I presume, at this stage, we've got one cubicle. And so it's nothing to drive past or walk past and have anything up to 20 people waiting outside the toilet block off the bus. It's ridiculous. So, well, I take your point that we really do need a toilet policy, but not one that necessarily means that therefore we've got to have single opening cubicles to the public. That mightn't in some situations be the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise it.
Just to say thank you, Councillor Ivey, for your input into the debate. It's not really a debate, comments. Just that I haven't seen a tourist bus or whatever pull up over at Lions Park where you have to toilet 57 people plus 19 standing all at once off a coach. But just getting the most number of toilets, we need to do it the best way, not necessarily, how many can you get in there for $350,000? Are we getting the best value for money with the best design? I think that applies everywhere. Maybe they needed to build a few more at Cameron Park before our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. So have that before us now. The information be noted. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is the comment section. I'll start on the left this month. Councillor Wells.
Better chairs, I think. Just wanted to briefly say that this is our last council meeting for the end of 2023. It's been a busy year for a lot of people, but I wanted to sort of remind our community that Christmas is a time that is meant to be full of joy for everybody, but we do know that there are many families out there that struggle through this time of the year. There is more mental health issues. There are more domestic family violence issues. There are more crime. This creates a whole lot more in our communities. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom about it, but I just wanted to put that awareness out there in some of the ways that we can help the less or more disadvantaged community members is supporting some of the local services that support these families. So just if you think that you want to help, just reach out. There's plenty of them out there. There's the Salvation Army. There's plenty of services. Just do a bit of research and, if you've got an opportunity to do a small donation, whether it's money, whether it's food or even a toy, I'm sure it will go to a well-deserved family. Other than that, wishing everybody in our community Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Mann.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just on our last topic of the toilet policy thing, that'd be a great idea. Dubbo's got reputations for all sorts of things, but we ended up in national media about our toilet block this week or last week in Parliament, so it would be a great move. I, like Councillor Wells, just want to pass on all the best wishes, particularly to the staff and team here at DRC. Do a great job, look after us all year. There's a lot of work goes in behind the scenes. But everybody here, all our councillors, hope you have a great, safe Christmas, and hope to see you all fit and well in the new year. To move into our last 8 months. Mr. Mayor, is it 10 months?
9 months.
9 months.
14
okay.
September.
Let's finish strongly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, everyone have a safe and happy holidays and a happy new year. Be kind to everyone, especially those working in retail over the Christmas period. That would be great. But just stay safe and stay hydrated.
Thanks, Mum. Councillor Black.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I had a report last Friday from people who were at the pool, the Dubbo Olympic swimming pool, to do with like a few of the primary schools, year 6 had gone there, and they'd booked the water slide and the splash pad and just going to have a bit of a swim around. Kids had bought money to buy food from the canteen, and the splash pad wasn't going. The slide pool was only sort of partially full, so the kids had to bucket water across so that they could fill up the pool at the bottom of the slide for the water to be pumped through. So they could actually have a bit of a slide. They were there from 9:30 till 12, but it took forever to fill the pool, buckets at a time, filling a wheelie bin and carting it back and forth across. And the canteen wasn't open, so a lot of kids couldn't buy sort of stuff from the canteen. There was no bottled water available from the fridge at the front near the kiosk. You had to buy a can of Coke or something like that. I really do think that the pools, after hearing about Wellington, could be going an awful lot better than they are. We know that there's been problems with communication between the pool management companies. As privatisation doesn't always work very well, often doesn't. About the only good example I can think of around the place is the privatising the phone network. That seems to have gone all right. But other than that, it's hard to find a winner from privatisation. Now, some of these concerns keep coming up all the time, and we've heard about the Wellington problem there. And one of the things about cutting wages is that suddenly you can't get workers. They go somewhere else where they can get more money. And I think that's been borne out to a fair degree here. And I think that we really do need to have a look at what's the go of the contract, what's the cost, has the contract been complied with, can we get out of the contract and bring the management back in-house, because we weren't having all these problems when it was managed in-house. And to save $400,000 on last year's running costs, well, that doesn't save $400,000 on the previous year's running cost when Mr. Dean Frost was sort of running the pools back then. So this is something that we're really going to need to have a bit of a think about here. Is the community getting the best value for money from the current situation of the privatised pool management? I don't believe they are, based on all of those things that I've just mentioned, plus other stuff that has been brought up previously. Had a call from someone who had been reading the council papers from the conservatorium. They got kids at the conservatorium and said how important it was about they'd seen the purchase at a bowling club, potential purchase, or it's up for looking at or whatever, and said it really does need to be bought as part of the cultural precinct, the much talked about cultural precinct that has been planned for a very long time. And I said, thank you, yes, I'll take that on board. But they really wanted to express how if the bowling club didn't come into Dubbo Regional Council's hands or ownership, that whole plans for the cultural precinct and a possible conservatorium into the future, like what Orange is building with a whole stack of federal government money, wouldn't be able to happen. Simply wouldn't be able to happen. You never know what might happen with that plot of strategic land, strategic to council. I was driving around and I heard Wham on the radio, George Michael, and I was just bopping along last Christmas, and one councillor's told me and a couple other people that This might be the last Christmas that the mayor's in the mayor's job, because I was told that he's not going to run again at the September election next year. And if that is the case, then I'd like to thank him for his service all these years. And there's a song that we can play later, The Last Christmas. I thought that's very apt, considering what I've been told by another councillor and a couple of people in the community. And I'd just like to say, everyone, have a safe and happy Christmas, and don't put yourself into debt thinking that you need to buy a stack of presents. That it's more about loving people than showering people with gifts. And if you don't have the means, don't put yourself into debt over Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Not a lot to say, just I want to thank the staff and the rest of the councillors for all the support through the years, and through this year. And I hope that everyone has a happy festive season. So good luck to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to wish everybody a happy Christmas and a safe Christmas. If you're travelling, please be careful. Look out for all the other idiots on the road. Just be mindful. And I hope it's all, I hope Santa's kind to all of you. Thank you. Oh, and thank you to all staff for the support and job that they do for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things earlier in the week, along with yourself, I think, any other councillor there, Mr. Mayor, was they went to the opening of the Rural Fire Service Centre of Excellence. And I know you'll probably speak about it, but wow, it's a phenomenal facility. Obviously, we had oh no, Councillor Black was there, of course. It's an amazing facility. Obviously, had the Minister for Emergency Services there as well. Had a lot of heads of the Rural Fire Service departments and government there. It was and have the opportunity to whack some of those virtual reality headsets on and have a bit of a play, if you like, with some of those six-figure toys that they've got there to train with. The accommodation, unbelievable. And the police facility to come next door to that when it's opened in the next 6 to 12 months. It's an incredible precinct, and if any of the councillors haven't had the chance to go through there, see if you can tap into one of the staff and get a tour of the place. It's phenomenal. So an amazing asset that's literally on our doorstep. I was speaking to one of the staff there who tell me that the Yellow Shirt Brigade, so the guys on the ground in RFS, they come there for their training. The last lot were there for 13 weeks. So some of those people there in our city for 3 months. And I guess a part of me is disappointed that they're all staying out there in the accommodation. But I think there's about 120 odd beds all up, and it was full. They had about 20 or 30 people staying in motels in the city as well because of that overflow. So the economy is getting some great benefit out of that. On top of that, I think there's a local pub that runs a bus out there up a couple of times a week of a night time to pick them up and bring them into town to spend some money. So, look, a great facility. The local economy will do quite well out of it, and it's certainly a bit of a gem in our crown. So well done to all involved in that. And off the back of the sentiments of all our fellow councillors as well, Merry Christmas, everybody. Look out for your neighbour. Echoing the sentiments of Councillor Wells there. There's people doing it a lot worse than any of us here. So certainly keep your eyes out for your neighbour and lend a hand if you need to. And as well, thank you all the staff for another busy year and your support as well. So just echoing the sentiments of my other councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I just outline one thing that I did in the last month or so, which I found I did lots of things, obviously, but this one was particularly enjoyable and particularly good. I went into the Macquarie Correctional Centre, where they have introduced a greyhounds as pets program. And everyone will realise that a few years ago, Mike Baird, as Premier, tried to ban greyhound racing because he said it was cruel and various things. That was overturned. But greyhound racing have certainly learnt a few lessons, and what they've done is introduce a very solid program to rehome greyhounds after they finish racing. Now, you can rehome them, but greyhounds need to be taught a whole lot of things, like how not to go berserk when a door slams, or not to chase the cat, or to actually climb upstairs or go downstairs. And so what Greyhound Racing New South Wales have done is team up with Corrective Services, and they have, for 6 greyhounds at a time, go there to be reschooled, to be trained to be rehomed. And so they go there, and are there for a number of weeks, I think 6 or 8 weeks, each batch of greyhounds. And more importantly than that, 2 greyhounds are under the responsibility of 1 inmate. There were 3 female inmates. I think they're mainly females that do this retraining and reschooling. And just to watch the interaction between the greyhounds and the inmates, it was fantastic. You know, the girls were fantastic with the dogs. Talking to one of them, and she said, "Oh yeah," she said, "when I walk down here, whatever her names were, Buster or something, whatever, he starts jumping up and going berserk." And it was just, and you think, you know, and the joy in their eyes to say that here they were training and working with dogs. It was just, I thought it was a fantastic program. So anyway, so that was very good. There've been lots of other good things too, but can I just pick up on what Councillor Black said? I too, the downside of the last little time, particularly in Wellington, has been the problems that we've had with the pool. Yes, there have been problems, and I think the manager, Belgravia Leisure, have a fair bit to answer for. I have faith in our staff, though, those issues will be addressed. That if there are some penalties which are genuinely flow from their mismanagement, then they will be introduced. But I think that I have got enough confidence in the staff and the whole process to say, okay, we certainly had some bad teething problems to start with, but we've overcome those, and going forward, it has been a particularly successful move. But I agree there's still a bit of work to be done to make that happen, but I've got confidence that it will happen. Again, can I just again say to everyone, to the staff and fellow councillors, look, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this year. I thought it's been really good, and so thank you very much for your friendship and camaraderie and not heated debate, but good debate at times. I think it's very good. So Merry Christmas to all, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Shoutery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll not take much time. I just would like to share the seasonal greetings with my fellow councillor and all the staff doing a fantastic job. I really had a great time this year with the council, and also I would like to acknowledge the staff will work during the Christmas time. Council staff work during the Christmas time, keeping service to our community. I really thanks them, and also at the community, remind them that if you're traveling, please safe drive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. So just a couple of things from my perspective. Again, I'll mention the RFS Aviation Centre of Excellence that Councillor Wright mentioned, and Councillor Burns was there doing the smoking ceremony, nice and warm for a smoking ceremony, obviously. So people didn't stay outside for too long, obviously, before they came inside. But it was quite a couple of things quite significant about that. So Minister Dibb was there, as Councillor Wright mentioned, and he said something about that which I thought was significant, the fact that that training centre has never been done before in this nation. That training facility is the first of its kind in the nation. So that's quite significant that here we are in Dubbo having world-class, innovative, leading solutions here, which I think is absolutely fantastic. The other thing, and Councillor Wright mentioned some of the accommodation, there are 124 beds there. That's almost full every night of the week, so they're actually having to bring people into town, so which is good for our economy. But that whole precinct out there now, you've got 3 different RFS facilities. We've got SES, we've got VRA, we've got the police training facility that hasn't been finished yet, but still being worked on. I was speaking to some of the commissioners last night about that and where that's up to. There's other plans already coming for that whole facility. And it all goes back to about 2015 when the RFS headquarters in Sydney were looking to have to move for a whole range of complicated reasons. But I know we approached the Deputy Premier at the time, Troy Grant, and asked him to bring the headquarters out here. He said they couldn't for a whole range of logical reasons, but they looked to try and bring some other RFS facilities out to Dubbo. And that started that whole process to that precinct that we've got there now, which I think is absolutely a fantastic precinct and will continue to grow. A couple of other things, the Wellington Meet Your Community Leaders was on in the last few weeks. So thank you to all those councillors that came along for that. And thank you to the community. What a great opportunity for the community to come along and just walk up and talk to their elected leaders. Another citizenship ceremony. Every 2 months we're having those now. And Councillor Chowdhury did a great job filling in for one of our staff to actually do some of the pronunciations of some of our new residents. And I think he did a fantastic job there. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Wellington Senior Citizens this morning, actually in Wellington, with Councillor Ivey and Councillor Goff down there. Great to see lots of senior citizens there enjoying some of the Christmas celebrations. And the last one I'll mention is the Old Dubbo Jail, the launch of 3 new parts of that. Councillor Wright was there along to witness that as well. A book called Life of Crime, a new exhibit called Life of Crime, and then a touchscreen that gives more information about the 32 people that were on death row in our gallows gallery. And again, it just keeps adding to what we've got at the Old Dubbo Jail. Well and truly worth going have a look. Reminder that there is the inmates program that anyone that lives in the Dubbo Regional Council LGA can get into the Old Dubbo Jail for free. If you've got visitors over Christmas, what a great time to go along there. You don't have to pay. The visitors often have to pay, but you can go along and show them around there and have a look at some of those new exhibits yourself. So fantastic things, and still very busy, lots of exciting things happening. Just a reminder, the next time we'll see each other in a group will be Australia Day next year in Wellington. That'll be at 6:30 p.m. on the 25th of January, in Dubbo at 8 a.m. on the 26th of January. I'm sure we'll have huge crowds at both of those. And we just had our ambassadors announced today. So actually, I don't know if they're announced. We know about our ambassadors' day. They'll be announced to the public in the next couple of days. So that's very exciting as well. And of course, as all the councillors said, Merry Christmas to our entire community, to all my fellow councillors, to all our staff. There will be some closures over Christmas. Just look online to look at those closures for different parts of our facilities. And obviously, the staff will be having a well-earned break wherever they can. Some of them that are frontline tourism facing won't get much of a break. They might get Christmas Day only. But as much as possible, those staff can have a bit of a break and have a bit of time away. But again, well done to all of our staff this year. Well done to all our fellow councillors and the interaction with our community. So thank you, and have a Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. Looking forward to 2024. So the next items now are confidential under Section 10A of the Local Government Act. The next items being CCL 23/351, 352, 353, 354, 355 have been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of council. Can I have someone move this into confidential? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Seconded by Councillor Wells. Now, before we have any discussion or debate, we have had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. There's no members of the public area left now. They've all left during the meeting, so I don't need to ask for any information from them. Any discussion or debate from councillors about moving into confidential? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The streaming will now be turned off. Any members of the public will be asked to leave the chamber, which they've already done. The chamber will be reopened and the live stream restarted after deliberations on these matters, with the resolutions to be made public. Thank you. The council returned to open session at 8:15 p.m. Welcome back. I will now read the resolutions from the confidential session of council. In relation to CCL 23/351, the motion from council is that council submit an expression of interest for 74 Windewarra Street, Dubbo, in accordance with the value as recommended in the valuation report received from Preston Road, Patterson, received 14 December 2023. Point 2, that a report be provided to council following the outcome of the expression of interest of 74 Windewarra Street, Dubbo. 3, that all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. In relation to 23/352, the resolution from council was point 1, that the approval of grant funding from the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries and the Rural Assistance Authority of $525,000 be noted. Point 2, that Outcross Agri Services be awarded a contract for $794,670.48, excluding GST, to execute the works program encompassing the installation of sheep and goat EID infrastructure as part of the mandatory implementation of the sheep and goat EID tracking program. Point 3, that all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. Point 4, that all documentation in relation to this matter be signed under the common seal of council. In relation to CCL 23/353, the resolution from council was point 1, that council rescind council resolution CCL 23/300. Point 2, that council agree to the sale of lot 131 on DP 1277458 to the parties and on the terms as detailed in this report. Point 3, that council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to negotiate, finalise and execute any documents relating to A, an agreement for the sale of lot 131 on DP 1277458, including any contractual documentation, provided the terms of the contract are in accordance with council's resolution to this report. B, any easement over lot 131 on DP 1277458, and C, any New South Wales Land Registry Service documentation relating to resolution number 2A and 2B. 4, that any documents which may not be executed by the Chief Executive Officer under delegation be executed under the common seal of council. Point 5, that all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. In relation to CCL 23/354, the resolution from council was point 1, that a draft voluntary planning agreement be prepared in accordance with the terms identified in this report. Point 2, if a voluntary planning agreement cannot be successfully negotiated with the proponent, that a further report be provided for the consideration of council. Point 3, that the draft voluntary planning agreement be placed on public display in accordance with the provisions of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. Point 4, that following conclusion of the public exhibition period, a further report be prepared for the consideration of council, including any submissions received. Point 5, that all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. And in relation to CCL 23/355, annual performance review of the Chief Executive Officer, the resolution from council was that the CEO consistently exceeded expectations and demonstrated above satisfactory performance throughout the review period, surpassing set targets and driving impressive results. In addition, council recognised the professional, caring and effective inputs the CEO has made to the operation of our council. That now brings us to the end. There are no further items for consideration of the ordinary council meeting. I declare the meeting closed, the time being 8:18 p.m. Web stream is now being completed.